Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Robin Dwyer. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. Dozens of Palestinians killed in Israeli air attacks in central Gaza. Injured children treated on hospital floors as facilities run out of supplies. The US Secretary of State makes another visit to the Middle East, pushing for a pause in hostilities between Israel and Hamas. More than 100 people dead and many more missing as wildfires sweep through the Chilean city of Valparaiso. And all smiles as the British and Irish Prime Ministers are in Northern Ireland for the return of the power-sharing government with a $4 billion settlement from Westminster. Officials in central Gaza say almost 30 people have been killed in an Israeli air attack on Deir al-Balah city. It's an area that had been designated as safe by the Israeli military in the first few weeks of the conflict. Dozens of others were injured in the strike, which hit homes and a mosque. Rescue teams are still searching for survivors. Many victims had to be treated on a hospital floor because of a lack of facilities. Our correspondent Noor Harazin is in Rafah. So, Noor, tell us more about these latest Israeli attacks.
Well, yes, Israel intensified its attacks on Deir al-Balah city, which is located in middle Gaza, also in Khan Yunis and Rafah, which is located in southern Gaza. And these places are actually all green areas, especially Deir al-Balah. I mean, over the past weeks, the Israeli army have been mentioning Deir al-Balah as a safe area, asking civilians to evacuate to Deir al-Balah from northern Gaza, or even if they don't feel safe in southern Gaza, they should be heading to middle Gaza and Deir al-Balah. However, over the past 24 hours, there were several Israeli strikes on Deir al-Balah in areas like Al-Hikr, Al-Birka, eastern Deir al-Balah, and all of these areas are densely populated. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 30 people were killed only in Deir al-Balah. 113 people in total were killed in Gaza over the past 24 hours, bringing up the death toll here in Gaza since the 7th of October up to 27,400 people that were killed. The situation in the hospital is a total chaos. I mean, we're talking about just 3 hospitals that are operating now in southern Gaza with very little medical aid. Even the doctors are not able to reach the hospitals because it is not safe to move around. The doctors who are available inside the hospitals, they were forced to treat the injuries on the floors of the hospitals with very little medical equipment available.
And Noor, what's happening with the transfer of aid on the Rafah border crossing with Egypt?
I mean, the Rafah border is open for almost 3 months now. However, Egypt allows very little aid to enter the Gaza Strip through Rafah border. Most of this aid is cooking gas. However, the main aid trucks are now allowed to Gaza from the Karm Shalom border, which is between Gaza and Israel. And this is to give the Israeli side a chance to search through the aid before allowing it to Gaza. At the same time, the World Health Organization said that around 1,000 people who were injured during the Israeli war on Gaza managed to leave the Gaza Strip for treatment outside of Gaza through Rafah. But here is the thing, we are talking about more than 66,000 Palestinians that were injured since the 7th of October. So 1,000 of them is actually around 2%. This is not enough for the people. This is not enough for the hospitals. Over the past weeks, actually, the doctors have been calling upon Egypt to open the border fully and allow more people who are injured in Gaza to leave through Egypt to get treatment outside of Gaza. At the same time, Jordan, from its side, dropped an aerial aid boxes on Rafah and also on Khan Yunis, some medical aid and some food.
Noor, thank you very much. Our correspondent Noor Harazin in Rafah. The United States has carried out more airstrikes against Houthi rebel positions in Yemen. The latest action follows US and UK attacks on Houthi targets on Saturday. The Iran-backed group has been attacking military and commercial ships in the Red Sea for weeks, which it says is a show of support for Palestine. The Houthis have vowed to respond to the airstrikes, saying continued US aggression in Yemen will achieve nothing. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Riyadh, part of another diplomatic visit to the Middle East, his fifth since October the 7th. There's been a flurry of diplomatic activity over a possible deal for a pause in fighting in exchange for the release of hostages held by Hamas. The US Senate has also unveiled a $118 billion funding bill, which includes aid for Israel. Let's talk now to our correspondent in Tel Aviv, Sarah Coates. So, Sarah, what are we expecting from Antony Blinken's visit?
Well, look, this is being seen as a crisis tour as the situation right around the Middle East deteriorates. As you mentioned, right now he is in Saudi Arabia, widely believed to be discussing potential normalisation with Israel once this war wraps up. This, of course, would be, according to the United States, to further isolate Iran and its proxies in the region. Now, after this, he'll visit Egypt, Qatar, before landing here in Tel Aviv for talks in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and of course, the West Bank. And look, according to the White House, Blinken's main goal here is to get more aid into the Gaza Strip. But of course, in order to achieve this, to do this, there needs to be a significant pause in fighting. And look, this is something that he's going to have to get Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, to agree to. He's been very steadfast, saying that he will not pause fighting, he will not accept a ceasefire. But there is widespread belief that if Netanyahu actually does accept some sort of a pause to begin with, that this could then translate into a longer pause or even potentially a ceasefire. And look, there's been a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister Netanyahu from the right wing of his coalition. Of course, there's that far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and also the Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich. They've been saying that they will leave the government if a reckless deal to get these hostages out is made, while on the coalitions are rather on the other side, his war cabinet. We do know that the former Defence Minister Benny Gantz, he's also been threatening to walk out of that small war cabinet if Netanyahu continues to cave to the right. So certainly a lot on his plate here for Antony Blinken during this trip.
So that's the diplomacy then, but what's the latest we've heard from the Israeli military about their operations in Gaza?
Well, look, it's just given an operational update saying that over the last 24 hours, dozens of terrorists have been killed in the northern and the central parts of the Strip, adding that IDF troops are continuing to eliminate terrorist operatives in battles in western Khan Yunis, also conducting operations including locating weapons like AK-47, sniper rifles, grenades and other ammunition. But look, there's been an incident just over the last hour or so, also in the West Bank, just right near East Jerusalem there. A video has come to light showing what appears to be a teenager walking up to soldiers. He walks pretty calmly up to these soldiers and then appears to try and stab them. He then runs away with the soldiers shooting him dead. So it is understood this child was around 14 years old. We will have more information on this incident in the next bulletin.
Sarah, thank you very much. Our correspondent Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv. More than 100 people have died and many more are missing after wildfires swept through the city of Valparaiso in Chile. Firefighters have been battling to contain the massive blazes which have devastated several regions. The country's president has declared 2 days of national mourning. CGTN's Siobhan McCall reports.
Firefighters are struggling to contain the intensifying blazes, with hundreds still raging across the country. The fires gathered momentum late last week. Several coastal cities, popular with tourists, choked with smoke. Officials say it's Chile's deadliest forest fire on record, and the president has declared a state of emergency. Entire neighborhoods have been left destroyed, houses and possessions scorched.
This was my kitchen. I had my washing machine there too. This was the bathroom. This is where the shower would have been, the toilet. Here was the bedroom. There another bedroom. This was my living room, dining room.
This botanical garden in Viña del Mar was one of the main attractions in the city. It was destroyed in the blaze, 4 people killed as flames swept through.
The fire was too fast. We never thought it would reach the botanical garden, and it would devastate this whole area in such a catastrophic way because it was hell. I heard about it and I ran and ran. I got all the way down here and you couldn't go down because it was 1,000 degrees. I could not go down. I want to save them, but I couldn't.
Blazes have spread as Chile battles a summer heat wave. An El Niño climate pattern has caused high temperatures and triggered forest fires in several Latin American countries. But officials also fear the fires could have been started deliberately.
It's hard to think there are such horrible and heartless people who could be able to inflict so much pain. But if these people exist, we will search for them. We will find them, and they will have to face not only the entire society's rejection, but also the law.
It's Chile's worst disaster since an earthquake killed more than 500 people in 2010. And with hundreds of people still missing, rescuers fear the death toll will rise further as they reach the most heavily affected areas. Siobhan McCall, CGTN.
Northern Ireland's newly installed power-sharing executive says the UK government's $4 billion funding package does not go far enough. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his Irish counterpart Leo Varadkar are visiting Belfast to mark the restoration of the devolved administration following 2 years of deadlock. Last week, the Democratic Unionist Party, or DUP, agreed to drop its boycott after striking a deal with Sunak's government over the easing of post-Brexit trade frictions. Well, our correspondent Yolo Abdavid is following the story. So, Yolo, let's talk about the money first. There's a big financial settlement that comes with the re-establishment of Stormont, isn't there?
Yes, and it's much needed in terms of the people in Northern Ireland because they haven't had a devolved government for 2 years. Now, devolved government has been in place now for over 20 years in the UK. There's a parliament in Wales, there's a parliament in Scotland, and then this assembly in Northern Ireland. But what is different in Northern Ireland is, of course, the 30 years of sectarian violence between different communities. So this is historic. But that's an overused word in terms of Northern Ireland. And immediately, Michelle O'Neill, the first nationalist Republican First Minister of Northern Ireland, and the deputy from the opposite side of the political divide in Northern Ireland, Emma Little-Pengelly, have asked together on behalf of the Cabinet for more funding. That is just over $4 billion isn't enough because the annual budget is over $18 billion, around $18 billion. They want more simply because of everything that's happened in terms of Brexit, COVID and everything else. And they will get around $700 million too in terms of public services because there was a huge strike last month, biggest in a generation, and it highlights the problems. So even though there are smiles today and handshakes, there is a real problems ahead for the Stormont Assembly and for the new Northern Irish government.
Well, as you say, cordiality on display today, but potentially trouble ahead because the Sinn Féin party is talking about a referendum on reunification with the Republic of Ireland. Yes,
that Michelle O'Neill has been very vocal over the weekend. Lots of interviews with the media in Ireland and in Britain, and she said that this is a decade of change. Now, it is a huge change to have a Republican and a nationalist as a First Minister in Northern Ireland, and as well as being a general election year potentially in the UK, so politically and financially, Rishi Sunak and the Conservative government are not really on firm ground. There is also a general election to be held in the Republic of Ireland. So there could be another push by Sinn Féin, and the leader of Sinn Féin, the president of Sinn Féin, Mary Lou McDonald, she could well be the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister in the Republic of Ireland. Now, if that's the case, it will definitely push that drive to have a referendum. But to have a referendum on Northern Ireland, you'd have to have a separate ballot in the north and in the south. There has to be a majority in the north and the south. And there is one other element, which is uneasy easy why we didn't see, for instance, Mr Varadkar as the Taoiseach of Ireland and Sunak today together on camera is because there is a legal challenge by the Irish government towards the British government because of crimes during that era in the 1960s and 1970s. So things may look good on the surface, but there are difficulties underneath.
Yolo, thank you very much. Our correspondent, Yolo Abdavi. You're watching CGTN. Still ahead. Malaysia gets ready for its Spring Festival celebrations with traditional lion and dragon dances.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos? And unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with Global Business, only on CGTN.
I think it should be more global cooperation.
I would like to hear more the voice of the developing countries.
Globalization has lifted more than 1 billion people out of poverty.
The green transition has to happen. It's a necessity.
Well, China and the United States are important powers in the world.
What unites us is much more than what divides us.
And I believe China is committed to this agenda.
Join me, Juliet Mann, to set the agenda at these times every weekend on CGTN.
Events have consequences. Words create impact.
One more offensive in a long line of battles that's been ongoing for more.
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us.
The world today matters for your world tomorrow.
The number of casualties is growing quickly.
Why, this is one of the hardest hit towns in the region.
The world today, every day on CGTN.
Welcome back. A reminder of our headlines. Dozens of Palestinians killed in Israeli air attacks in central Gaza, with injured children treated on hospital floors as facilities run out of supplies. The US Secretary of State makes another visit to the Middle East, pushing for a pause in hostilities between Israel and Hamas. And the British and Irish Prime Ministers are in Northern Ireland for the return of the power-sharing government with a $4 billion settlement from Westminster. Ukraine's president has confirmed he's considering replacing top officials, including the country's military chief. Volodymyr Zelensky says it's not about a single person, but a broader issue, adding that a reset is necessary. Well, our correspondent Megumi Lim is in Kyiv. So, Megumi, what else do we know about President Zelensky's plans for change?
Well, so just a recap of what's been happening is that since last Monday, rumors have been swirling that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had asked Ukraine's Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny to step down and take on a new role, which, according to reports, Zaluzhny refused. And since then, we have not had a lot of information coming out of the situation. Zelensky's spokesman denied the reports and declined to comment further. But as you mentioned, on Sunday, Zelensky said in an interview with an Italian media outlet that he is planning a wider shakeup of military leadership that would involve not only one person, but that several senior officials may be dismissed. Now, we don't know when exactly this is going to happen and who is going to be dismissed. But what we know so far is that Zelensky and Zaluzhny's relationship has not been an easy one, especially during the past few months. They have been at odds with each other. They have had disagreements, especially after Zaluzhny, if we remember, published that essay, an interview with The Economist last year, December of last year, describing the war had entered a stalemate with the front lines barely moving, and Zelensky had disagreed with that analysis. Now, analysts have said that this is not surprising. When a country is put in a tight spot, it is inevitable that disagreements and differences are pronounced, and Ukraine is in a tight spot right now. As we know, additional funding from the United States has been stuck for months now, and even though the EU did approve that big financial assistance package last week, they have been falling behind in that target of delivering 1 million artillery shells to Ukraine by March of this year, and Kyiv has said that it is facing a critical shortage of artillery shells. So it is not surprising, according to analysts, that these disagreements are coming to the fore and that Zelensky is looking for a reset. But sources have also said that this may not be a good move because Zaluzhny is a very popular general. He is considered a hero here in Ukraine. He was credited for repelling the initial blitzkrieg that was planned by Russian forces during the early days of the invasion, and also credited for helping liberate large swaths of territory in 2022. But it appears that Zelensky is hoping that as the country enters the third year of war, that this reset, what he called a reset, could help with the exhaustion and the fatigue that the country is facing.
Megumi, thank you very much. Our correspondent Megumi Lim in Kyiv. Hungary's ruling party says it wants the Swedish Prime Minister to come to Budapest before Stockholm's NATO bid is ratified. The Fidesz party made the remark as it boycotted a parliamentary meeting due to vote on approval. Hungary is the only NATO country not yet to have ratified Sweden's membership application. Russian presidential candidate Boris Nadezhdin is facing possible exclusion from next month's election. The Election Commission has reportedly found that 15% of the signatures he received supporting his election bid are invalid. If confirmed, it will be grounds for his disqualification. Nadezhdin is a vocal critic of the military operation in Ukraine. He's vowed to appeal to the Supreme Court if the Commission refuses to register him. 500,000 California residents are without power as a heavy storm batters a large area of the U.S. state. Authorities are warning of life-threatening flooding over the next few days, an effect of the so-called atmospheric river, which is caused by airborne currents of dense moisture. A state of emergency has been declared in some counties, which are still recovering from an earlier storm. The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, has been re-elected in a landslide win. Provisional results showed him winning 83% of support, with 31% of the ballots counted. His New Ideas party is expected to win almost all of the 60 seats in the legislative body, making him the most powerful leader in El Salvador's modern history. Thousands of Bukele's supporters have gathered in the capital centre to celebrate. In Malaysia, the Spring Festival is being celebrated with festive decorations and activities in people's homes. And the symbolic lion dance performance this year has a competitor, the Dragon Dance, as it's the year of the Lung, also known as the Chinese dragon. Our correspondent Ryan Meltzer reports from Kuala Lumpur.
Around a quarter of Malaysia's population are of ethnic Chinese origin, so there's plenty of Lunar New Year colour and festivities in Kuala Lumpur and around the country. Families hold reunion dinners and companies hold luncheons for their clients and staff. A special regional feature is what's known as Yi Sang, or the Prosperity Toss, consisting of a mixture of shredded vegetables and seafood. Mandarin oranges and lavish hampers are popular gifts. Kuala Lumpur's shopping malls try to outdo each other with the imaginativeness of their decorations. People flock to Chinatown to buy their favorite Lunar New Year treats. There are plenty of lion dance performances, including something Malaysian troops excel in, the acrobatic lion dance, with performers bounding across high pillars. The dragon dance is normally performed less often in Malaysia, but with this being the year of the dragon, troops are putting on some special displays, thrilling audiences of all races.
I think it's perfect. I'm thrilled. There's a festival ambience. We don't feel lonely even we are out of China. I think people like Chinese culture. Everyone is happy.
It's impressive. Really, we stayed days before in Singapore, and this is more impressive. It's pretty cool.
It's very vibrant. Today's our first day in Kuala Lumpur. It's very impressive.
This time of year is clearly special not only for ethnic Chinese and other Malaysians, but for people around the world keen to take in the sights and sounds and tastes of Lunar New Year in Malaysia. Ryan Meltzer, CGTN, Kuala Lumpur.
History has been made on music's biggest night as Taylor Swift became the first artist to win Best Album at the Grammys for a fourth time. The 34-year-old pop superstar has overtaken Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon and Frank Sinatra, who were previously tied with her on 3 wins apiece. Swift also used the awards ceremony to reveal a surprise new album due out in April. And women dominated this year's Grammys, with female artists taking home the biggest 4 titles of the night. Miley Cyrus, Billie Eilish and Victoria Monet claimed the other top awards. Music icons Tracy Chapman and Joni Mitchell also gave rare performances at the Los Angeles event. Our headlines again. Dozens of Palestinians killed in Israeli air attacks in central Gaza, with injured children treated on hospital floors as facilities run out of supplies. The US Secretary of State makes another visit to the Middle East, pushing for a pause in hostilities between Israel and Hamas. And the British and Irish Prime Ministers are in Northern Ireland for the return of the power-sharing government, with a $4 billion settlement from Westminster. And that is The World Today. Thanks for watching. There's more news on CGTN Europe's channel on the Telegram app, or scan the QR code on the screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. We're back with more news at the top of the hour. Coming up next, it's World Insight. For now, from all of the team in London, it's goodbye.
Hello and welcome to Europe's weather forecast. There will be a wide range of precipitation building up across the continent for the next few days. By Tuesday, see rain chances from parts of Germany, Poland into much of Ukraine. At the same time, Scandinavia into western Russia will continue to have light or moderate snowfall. Then getting into Wednesday, see very similar picture could be expected in parts of Scandinavia and portions of western Russia. Meanwhile, light to mild rainfall could be expected from places like Iberian Peninsula, France, Germany into Poland. So please keep your umbrellas handy. Talking about the temperature fluctuation under influence of precipitation, a daily highs will slide down if you're living across the west as well as the north for next 2 days. For example, could just have 3 for daily highs in Copenhagen. Sleet conditions to be expected. Overcast skies in Stockholm -4 to -9. See bone chilling temperatures for Helsinki -10 to -20, and moving to Moscow, light to moderate snowfall for Wednesday -6 to -11. And across Western Europe, only 9 to be expected for daily highs in London. Showers see 12 to 11 in Paris, and down to Madrid 15 to 4.